And now we're being recorded. So remember, it's going to all be used in court. All right, let's get started. We're going to go ahead and today we are going to be talking about HTTP and forms. So that is why that GIF is going through a bunch of papers, because forms reminded me of papers, and I typed in paperwork in the Giphy animator thing, and this is what I got. I think it's hilarious. Also reminds me of my Tuesday this week. So today, or for our announcements, here's what we got. As you already know, assignment number 4 is due today. Number 4 is due today. And hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was all about HTML and really just portraying yourself on a website. So using your knowledge to portray yourself. I hope you all did find this pretty interesting. I really liked it whenever I was a mentor, just grading through these, or even not even grading, but just looking through all the students and learning more about my colleagues, my classmates, and also my fellow mentors. So this is really, really cool. The next thing I have is today we have, and I gotta get my there. Today we do have a studio review, but I will not be there. Instead, we will be having a guest tonight at 8 p.m. for our studio review. Vinitha has, our TF Vinitha has very nicely stepped up to work through the problem with anyone who wants to attend. So that will start at 8 p.m. tonight, as always, and we'll be going through the studio for tonight at that time. I also will be putting out a video too in the coming days with me going through the studio if you want just my voice for whatever reason behind the studio, but Manitha is going to be more than capable to walk you through it. So enjoy that tonight. I won't be annoying you after 8. All right, before we get started, any final questions? Anything I'm missing? Nope. Okie dokie. Then let's get started diving right into it as we always do. We're going to start talking to Kyle because Kyle doesn't want to talk just yet. He's warming his voice up. How do we begin creating our websites? What do we start with? Always and forever.
Doc type.
I'll give you that one. Fantastic. Doc type with that HTML in there. What's next? What always comes next right after that?
HTML.
HTML holds everything in there. Everything. Awesome. Awesome. What are the only 2 tags that go between our HTML tags, though? There's only 2. What are our 2? What's the first one?
Title.
Title.
Head.
Title.
Body.
Header and body.
Oh,
Body.
head.
Head. A body, us people have 2 parts. A head, very good. And what's the second one? I already heard it.
Body.
Very good. Body. These are the only 2 tags. Only 2 tags. Only 2 tags that will ever go between those HTML tags. That is it. Now, I heard some people already hopping to the forward question here. Where do I wanted to give the site the title of pet store? What do I do?
Title.
Title.
Very good. It's within that head space. Only within the head. That is the only place you can ever place title. Awesome job. Tell me this though. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can I put this here?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Technically, you can, but this is not where that belongs. H1 is something that is seen by the user. It is a header tag. So it can go here, but it won't do anything for you. It will not show up on your page. It belongs down in the body. So that is where that goes. So no, we do not put that in the head. The head is only for the title. H1 goes down in that body. All right. Tell me this, how would I utilize a JS file called mycode.js into my HTML? What tag do I use if I want to bring in that file into my HTML?
Script tag.
Script. I like that. I'll start you out. Script there. What else? What goes after that? Give me some attributes in here. Give me some attributes. Are you guys all trees? Because you're acting stumped right now. It's because we need that source, SRC. This is going to define where my code.js file actually lives. We need to tell it where we live. So yes, source, SRC, that attribute, and then we close that off. This is going to pull that JavaScript into our HTML. Otherwise, we're going to have to put all of our JavaScript in one file, which is fine for right now. But I promise you, as your applications get bigger, you're not going to want to do that because you're going to get a headache. So this is what we do to bring in that JavaScript. Script SRC equals to where our JavaScript is living. Awesome, awesome. I'm going to throw that H1 header back in there, down in the body where it belongs. And tell me this, can this go here? If I put this down here,
Like a no.
Yes.
Well, at least you're honest. And I heard a yes, and you are absolutely correct. Yes, script is one of those unique tags that can be used in the head and the body. It can go to either. So yes, we could put this script down here to show the console log hello if we really wanted to do that. Is it going to really show us much benefit? No. Is it kind of cool? Sure, why not? But yes, script can go in the head and the body. I will tell you this, if you look up there, script and source, those kinds of things always go in the head. If you're bringing in JavaScript, you're going to put it in the head, not down in the body. All right, this was HTML. Now, one more fun thing too I want to talk to you all about is today is coding and crafts with Kyle. So as always, we're going to start out by grabbing some things from our repository, or my repository individually, and bring it onto the computer before we truly get started. So if you do want to do this, please feel free to follow along. But what I'm going to do is go to my repo. I do apologize, I forgot to mention this in the beginning. But right here, what I'm going to do is go to my github.com/Kyle-Wegener/lecture16. Go back over here. I copied, let me copy the other thing. Copy that link. And what I'm going to do is CD into my LC as always, or CD into my desktop first. Okay, where the heck am I? Ah! Oh, I'm already in lecture 16. I was like, what the heck's going on? Oh, I mean, JK, I was definitely not already testing this out before class just to make sure. Clear. Okay, there we go. CD desktop. Oh my gosh. Well, you guys are just going to see my full file system. CD Kyle Wegener. There we go. CD clear. CD desktop. CD. Oh my gosh. What am I going to? LC. And this is where I want to put my lecture. So I'm going to do what to clone it from the repository. Give me that command. What is it? Basically said half of it.
Get clone.
There you go, get clone. I'm sure we are all very aware of that one now. So I press enter and I just cloned lecture 16 onto LC. Perfect. I'm gonna go into LC folder just to make sure it's there. Come over here, look at that. There it is. One last thing I need to do, I need to open up in Visual Studio. So I open up Visual Studio Code, press enter, bring that down so you can actually see it. There we go. Let's shrink it up a little bit. Come on, work with me here. There we go. File, open, and now I go into LC. There we go. Computer's got to work with me a little bit today. Desktop. LC lecture 16. There we go. Open. And remember, we always open up the project, not individual folders. Open up the project, not individual folders. Now we see the whole project here, and this is what we're going to be working with today. So we will see exactly what we get to create here into the coming future, just to make sure that we can actually have some. Let's see if I can open this in a browser. Finder. Let's open up a little bit faster. There we go. Index.html. We're going to be working with this. Look at that cute pup, but not in that folder. That's for sure. I do not like Safari. So we're going to come over to Chrome, paste that in there, and now I have it up here on my desktop. Awesome, awesome. So what we're going to be doing today is that we're going to be, when we click this .me button, we're going to come over to this and create a form. Isn't this going to be nice? Yes, coding and crafts. We get to make things today. Get ready, get excited. Corey, I want to see a happier face on that face. Put some excitement in those eyes. There we go. All right. So what we're going to do is learn how we can exactly do this. So let's hop back to lecture. Before this, any questions about HTML or anything we've covered? Anything at all? Oakley dokley. That case, my 106 friends right now, we are going to explore the world. So let's actually have the talk about how the world actually works. Yes, it is time for a reality check about how everything we actually interact with truly works in a slightly realistic and maybe high level sense. So let's talk about what you are currently staring at. You are staring at a screen of some sorts, whether it be your phone or your laptop. But so far, we have explored how to turn this screen that you're looking at into creating something that you've created with HTML. You know now how to develop HTML in order to create a very pretty picture. You can now know that that browser will transform HTML Put that cute dog picture right on your screen. Isn't that fantastic? But the one thing I really do want to reality check us all back into is that, remember, we do not contain the web on our computers. Can anybody say that they have Google on their machine? Does anyone have the entire world of Google on their machine? If you do, please send me a DM because we'll become millionaires together because I'd love that code. But no, we do not have Google. We do not have DuckDuckGo. We don't have anything, any of those big web games on our computers individually. We ask for them. So what do I exactly mean by that? Let's take a closer look. Let's say we want to go to some arbitrary website. In this case, the examples I'm going to be going over today is www.website.com. Now, www.website.com, again, google.com does not live on my machine. Instead, it lives somewhere, probably on a very nice beach that I can't even afford to live at, probably LA. That's where everything lives. But regardless, it's going to live on a thing out in the world. That's where our true websites live. That's where all of our information lives. And those things out there that have all of your stuff, all of our stuff, all of my stuff, it's called a server. Servers are what contains all of our websites, all of our information somewhere out there. So our computers don't have to. Why? Because if I tried to install the entire internet on a single machine, I can barely have enough space for my own photos and documents, let alone having the entire internet on there. So we need machines or servers out there to hold all of our stuff for us. So why am I telling you all this? Because when we type in this arbitrary website.com and we press enter on your Chrome or your browser, Safari, whatever, it's going to send it over and ask that server for information, AKA the website name. It's going to ask for www.website.com. When your computer, when we ask a server for something, this is going to be called a request. We're requesting this website. We're requesting the server to give us this website back, this information back. The server, sometimes, most of the time, as long as we have access, security things, of course, it will send us back information. It will send us back that beautiful looking website. When it sends us back something, it's called a response. That data coming back at us, response, it's responding back to our request. That information then is that website that appears on your screen. This is exactly what happens every time you click enter. When you go to google.com, amazon.com, any of the big ones, even your small websites too. Every time this goes to a server, asks for information and returns back that website. This right here is essentially how the internet works. Now, as you can tell, there's two sides of this story. The left-hand side is you, the person on the machine. You are the client. You are the client side of this diagram. You are the person getting the information and being waited on. The other side is the server, AKA, of course, as you probably already guessed it, is the server side. They're the person that's actually providing the information, that's giving it back to you as long as you have access. Of course, what do I mean by access? If I just try to ask for someone's bank account information, if I use a different login credential or something like that, or just a different URL, I won't have access to that. Therefore, the server shouldn't respond with any of that information. So there is also a little bit of security there too, as you could imagine. Again, we're just talking at a high level sense today. And I'm actually gonna go into lecture questions and stop looking at individual Slacks, and that's probably better. There we go. Thanks, Trey, for putting that on there. Awesome, awesome. All right. So this right here is the start to our understanding about how the World Wide Web actually works. So any questions about this, and feel free to throw it in the lectures channel before we keep diving into it. This is extremely important because this is everything. Everything that we develop for is right here on your screen right now. All right. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and talk about requests. That is the big word for today. And we're going to explore a little bit more about this. When we send over a request, we have to talk to our server in a general sense, in basically a universal language. That's because not only the US is talking to servers, but people in Germany, China, India, any other place in the world, everyone's talking to different servers. The World Wide Web is global. It has no borders necessarily. And therefore, we need to talk in a universal language, which is also called somewhat a protocol. In this case, the protocol we're talking in is HTTP, Hypertext, oh, I always forget it, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Of course, I forgot the transfer part. So Hypertext Transfer Protocol is how we send over everything in the web. The S on the end, sometimes that you see, is just for security or secure, just showing that it's more secure. So you've seen HTTP before, so don't let that long word scare you. HTTP just means we're sending over an internet, or we're just sending over a request to get back a page, a website. But all right, this is a high level sense. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper now. We need to know that we are not the only ones on the web. The web is a very, very big place. Our computers are just trying to navigate one server and trying to get to it to get that site. But we also have to remember that there are thousands upon thousands of different servers or websites out there that we can actually access. So think of this, if that you are trying to be in a neighborhood in St. Louis or something like that, and you're in a city. That's the analogy I'm going to be going with today. So just picture you are just trying to get across town to your friend's house. So we're just simply trying to get to, hey, take me to website.com. Your computer's asking, can you just take me to website.com? Now, if I just said this into the internet abyss, it's like me getting into a car and saying, hey, take me to my friend Sarah's house. If you got into a cab and said, take me to my friend Sarah's house, would the cab driver give you the weirdest look and possibly ask also, why are you in a cab in 2021? Probably. But essentially what to get out of this is that the cab driver has no idea what you mean by Sarah's house or your individual friend's house. What the cab driver or what the internet understands is addresses. That's the only way you can navigate a city. It's the only way you can navigate the internet. Therefore, everyone on the internet has an address. Hence, all of our servers will have an address. Even you, your computer has a public address. Everyone has one that's connected to the internet. And that's given to you by your internet service provider, ISP, if you've ever seen that. So this thing right here is very powerful. It's your address. It's your particular public IP for anyone to get to if they wanted to and you give them access. Specifically an IP address, Internet Protocol Address. Essentially just think of it as your home address and you're trying to get to another friend's house. The internet or the website, they have an address too. You're just trying to navigate to it. So this is essentially how everything is set up in the web when we look at it in a bigger and larger picture. So, any questions about this so far? We're getting into the fun part of the web. I always like learning about this just because, like, okay, how does everything actually connect? Some of you might actually have, kind of gotten some understanding about this in the past, just because it is very, very. I think it's actually kind of taught in schools now too. I never got that information. Let's see. All right. So I got a question. Do you want me to upload my ISP? No, it's okay. ISP just means internet service provider, and that's the person that gives you your public IP. All right. So here we are. Let's see what I got to do next. Okay, so anyway, sorry, we all have an address. I'm catching up to where I am. So one thing I want to talk about is that, okay, everyone has an address. Your friend or my friend Sarah has an address. Everyone has an address. But if I say, hey, I want you to go to Sarah's house, and the cab driver's like, what are you talking about? Give me an address. It's like, okay, well, if we look at this example here, take me to website.com, and everything you always type into your browser is website.com and not a particular IP address. What exactly is going on? You always give these specific little names here for the websites. So how do I exactly how to navigate the web with it? So let's take a quick look at it. We have website.com here. This right here is called a domain name. When you go to google.com, amazon.com, website.com, these are all domain names. Like we said, the web doesn't work on domain names, it works on IP addresses. So in that case, how exactly do we get from these domain names down to the IP addresses? And the answer is that DNS that you read about. This is called a domain name system. It's a thing that transforms human readable domain names into their actual IP addresses. It's how I transformed Sarah's house into an actual address on Lindell or something like that. So this essentially is how we are navigating the web and how we're talking to servers and on the UI. Now, why exactly are we talking so much about this? Right now, you're on the UI side, but eventually going into the further units, you're going to be working on both sides of the system. So it's very important that we understand its inner workings. So this is our first getting our feet wet, understanding about what's actually going on behind the scenes. So let's look at that request one more time. You have your side, the client side on the left-hand side, server side on the right-hand side, and we send over that request. Nothing has changed. We type in www.website.com. We put in that website.com there, sent over, which HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And we know that from that, it is transformed by the DNS into an IP address. Look at everything rhymes too. So we have that IP now, and now we know exactly what server to go to. We hit that server and it sends us back something. That something is a response. And that response specifically is the website we requested. And now when we get that back, our browser transforms it to a pretty picture. This is the World Wide Web as we know it and how it works. So before I move on any further, I'm gonna unmute you guys. Any questions about any of this? Fun stuff, right? Not boring at all. Oh, come on, it can't be that boring. Look at this, how things are connected. Isn't that cool? Like, how do you reach something in like Ohio and like, you guys are all spoiled. No, back in the 1800s, they would have killed to get some data from Ohio or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. No one's grateful about data here. You kids. All right. So if we don't have any more questions about that, we're going to move in a little bit further now. So make sure my clicker is going on there. We're going to talk again more about the requests. So let's go ahead and do that. Now pay very close attention to this because this will, if you don't, haunt your life in the near future. We have the requests, but requests come in different flavors, many different flavors. But the two we're going to specifically talk about in the coming classes and well into Unit 2 is the first one, which is going to be asking for a website. How do we exactly ask for a website? We use this particular request called GET. When we request a website, when we want to get a website, we use a GET request. And we'll see exactly how that works here in our browser in the future. And the other one is if we want to send information, if we want to give information to the server so they can save it, we use a thing called a POST request. So getting a website, retrieving one, you get to use the GET command or GET request. If I want the server to save something or do something with information, I use a POST request. Get a website, GET request. Post man information over there, I use a POST request. That's going to be the really big differential between these two as we move forward. Again, this POST thing is something we're going to see in the near future. So just calling that out there. All right, that was Kyle talking a lot, and Kyle's out of water because he talks so much. So in that case, we're going to move to my favorite thing in the world, letting you all talk. So chill pill time, let's take a break from all of that banter and lecture stuff. And I want to ask you guys a few questions. First things first, can anyone tell me which fruit is not naturally occurring in the world? Is it tangerines, I can't even pronounce that, pomelios? I try my, or oranges.
Pomelos.
I had to guess pomelos.
I don't know what oranges are. So
Yeah, pomelos.
I would say oranges.
Banana.
Why does it grow on the tree
then? Banana's not even on there.
Tangerine.
Oh my gosh. It is oranges.
Really?
And what's actually funny about it is that it's a crossbreed between tangerines and polemios or whatever that word is. That's how pomelos. Thank you, pomelos. Tangerines and pomelos created oranges. Mind blown yet? Let's keep going.
Fruit.
The blob of toothpaste that sits on your toothbrush is called a what?
Blob of toothpaste.
No.
I think it's called ditto or something.
It has a
It's kind of close. It's close. It's called a
There really
nurdle.
is a name.
There is a name for it. It's called a nurdle. Yes, a nurdle of
weird.
toothpaste. Yes, isn't that
Everyone
great?
can now update their insulting vocabulary. You are such a
Yes.
insult, and nobody will ever know.
Love it. Last thing that blew my mind today, the original stage version, which is in 1902, of the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Dorothy's pet companion was actually a what?
Actor.
chameleon.
Blue whale.
Poodle.
Blue whale is
It's a
no, it's
chicken?
not a blue whale, but I love that answer. Did you say a chicken?
Yeah, I can see it being a chicken.
It's actually really close. It is actually a cow.
A cow.
I was close. I said pig.
That's awful.
Yes, a cow.
It's very
That
awful.
apparently was her original companion.
I said pig,
that
which a
one?
pig
Okay,
is
cool.
in the Suidae family. So a pig is closer to a cow than a chicken is because
Very
pigs
good. Yeah.
are in the Suidae family, but
It
yeah.
is a cow, though. Isn't that crazy? I always thought that was just absolutely bonkers. That threw my mind like no
So
other
is-
day.
so
So, oh, if we have any like questions, feel free to type them in the lecture questions channel. I'm sorry about that. Here, let me go ahead and. Sorry about that. I cut you off right at the last second. Go ahead, Amy.
an orange is a hybrid species.
Apparently, that is
So
what
they have
the
odd
65
chromosomes.
smartest facts of the world website today told me. So
So
I
would it
guess
be
it
an
has
odd
to be
number
true.
of chromosomes?
I have absolutely no idea. I have never seen the amount of chromosomes yet, but that'd be a cool Google thing. So if you
Yeah.
want to Google it, let me know, because I always like to
Okay.
learn more, because I had no idea about oranges. Plus, I worked for Bayer Crop Sciences, which, you know, turns tomatoes into alligators. So I'm also very surprised about what this exactly does. So there are your random facts of the day. I hope everyone enjoyed those. Still, cow blew my mind, but I guess she's from Kansas or something. Is that what they're? I don't know. Whatever. Okay, back to it. Everybody gotta get back to the grindstone here. All right, we have this button here. Everyone remember this example. But what happens when we take our nice little mouse cursor and click that thing? What happens when we click a button? Who can tell me? And I don't know why I needed you guys, because I'm asking for your input here. What happens when we click that button? Feel free to tell me.
An event.
An event. Very good, Jason. Yes, an event happens. Awesome, awesome job. And continuing on, if we have this button as the ID, my button, answer me this. If I wanted to add something to listen for this event, this click event, what do I need to do?
Event listener.
Add an event listener. So walk me through that. What's our first thing we need to do before we add an event listener? What do we need to do first?
Get
It is
element by ID.
very good, but yeah, we got to set up our variable. So I'm going to call it const my button element equals, and then document dot get element by ID, my button. We need to first get the button from the document, and then what do we need to do? What's our next thing? We have our button now from our document. What else do we need to do after that? Someone already said it, so walk me through it. What do we need to do?
Huh?
Event listener, add event listener.
Very good. We say my button dot add event listener. My button dot add event listener. That's how we start it. And then what event do we want to listen for on a button usually?
Click.
Very good. So we put click in there. Awesome, awesome. And then what's next?
Function.
The anonymous function to do whatever we want. Very good. Yes, that is exactly right. Yes, we need to create that anonymous function. Awesome job. Yes, there we go. So this is how we do our event listers and how we will be doing it into the future with most of our examples and exercises. We can also do it the other way that we saw in class and using those properties or attributes on our button to do it as well. All right, fantastic. So let's keep going here. So we have our users' inputs. That's what we're going to be talking today about, is that you've already saw users' input on the JavaScript side. So if I wanted to ask what my pet's name was, or my name was, or my birthday, you'd use the readline sync. Everyone remembers readline sync. That's how we got input from JavaScript. But how exactly do we get input from HTML? Well, you all know this answer because you all, I hope, have interacted with websites before. And the first and foremost one you should all come to mind when you think about getting input on websites is the notorious, infamous text box. We all have gotten a text box in front of us and had to type something in there. That is what a text box does. It gets text, it gets a first name, gets a last name, gets, now unfortunately, your credit card information when you're doing that late night Amazon purchase. Anything you need to put in the box, that is what text box is there for. The next big one you've probably seen is the checkbox. This one is fun. What dessert would you like? Or maybe your breakfast. This could be a breakfast question also. You can check one or both of your text boxes. So checkbox is where you just check a box, right? We've all seen this before. And then finally, the one we're going to talk about also today is the radio button. This one's a little bit different, and sometimes people might not be as familiar with this one. This is similar to the checkbox because we can check one of our answers saying ice cream, but the second we check another one, the previous one becomes unclicked. Radio buttons only allow us to select one option out of all of these. So that is our user's input. Now, let's go ahead and actually explore this in HTML. Let's bring that over here. All of these have something in common. We're going to be developing with these today using a single tag, and that tag is the input tag. Input is the tag that we can utilize to get users' input in multiple various different ways. And the first one is text box. So let's go ahead and work through that one. Here we have our text box. So we're going to start with input when we do this example, and then we're going to use the very powerful attribute called type. In here, we have to specify what kind of user's input do we want. In this case, we want text. Text is short for text box. We want to get text users' input back. And then this is also very important. Make sure you include a name and an ID in your tags. So let's actually see this in action. Let's go over to our HTML that we pulled in and see what we have here to work with today. So here we have our pet store here. And if you pull it in, don't forget your full form.html. If you have any questions or fall behind, feel free to look at that for a good, strong reference. Index.html is something that we are very familiar with. We used this last lecture. So one thing I'm going to change here is that, as you can see, adopt Arnold and adopt Lucy have been replaced with this specific line. Real quick, we're going to see what this line actually does. So if I go to adopt a pet here, we go back. I'm going to refresh, just make sure. Now, if we go to the Adopt Me button and we click on it, as we can see, we just navigated to a new page. That's what I did in this example. Again, what line did that was this one, window.location.href. href is the page location, what page you're actually on in your application, in your website. So this is if you're ever looking how to change pages, this is how you can do it. Now, I'm right now going to full form, but we're actually not wanting to go to full form anymore. We want to go to our actual form we're going to be creating today. So I'm going to save that, go back here, go back, refresh, press adopt me, and I see now I'm at form.html and all that form stuff is gone. So there we go. We set up our stuff. Now let's take a look at the text box example. We're going to come back over to our HTML. I'm going to come up to form.html. Down here in name, so I know where I want to create our name text box. Now, I believe we are, there we go. Can someone tell me what tag we use now to create the text box? What tag are we going to use? Who can help me?
Input.
Very good, input. And then what's our very powerful attribute we need to add next?
Type equal.
Tag equal, very good, text. Awesome job. And then we're going to name it real quick, which I'm going to call it owner name. And then an ID as well. It's very, very good to keep that in a good routine to put ID and name both in there. So I say space after that, and then I close it. I'm going to save that by pressing Control S, and then I come over here, I refresh. Now I have a text box here. Awesome. Hello. There we go. We created our text box. But as you can tell, it's not exactly what we see on the web. I don't even know what to enter in here. If I just came to this site and had no idea what the site was for or what I'm even doing, I have no idea what to enter in this box. So therefore, we need to add one more thing. We need to add a label. We need to actually put in here what we want our users to do. So I'm going to say label. I'm going to say name and then colon, and then press save. Here now, what we do is refresh. Now we have a label come out here and just say name, so I know exactly what to enter. Awesome. So we're giving a little bit more context. Remember, when you're creating these forms, remember, you're creating it for somebody else. So they're not going to be able to read your mind. Make sure we actually label our stuff. Now, one more thing I want to show you here is that we're going to come down to email. We're going to get a little bit more intricate with our inputs. We have our text here, but instead for email, we can instead of type of just text, we can actually define what we want to actually enter into that field. In this case, it's going to be an email. So we can actually say, we want to look for an email specifically. So we'll say owner email. Save that, come back over. Oh, I didn't add a label. Label, email, and there we go. Save that, come back over and refresh. There we go, we have a name and an email now. Awesome, awesome. All right, any questions about our text inputs right off the bat? Anything at all? Anything. righty then. If that is the case, we'll continue on. Let's talk about our checkboxes now and our radio buttons. Now, like we said, for all of these inputs, we are going to be using the input tag. So we say input, and then of course our type, our very powerful attribute. In this case, we're going to say checkbox. So we want to do checkboxes instead now. And then our name, user input, and then user input. We got to keep those names and IDs going in there as well. And same with radio button. Input type equals radio, name equals user input, ID, user input. So things like this. So just really, really, really focus on the checkbox and radio under the attribute type. This type, make sure one, you type it correctly. Two, check out more on W3 Schools if you want to see all the types that input can actually do, because it's a lot of them. And three, make sure that you know exactly which tool you want to use, because it's very important. But also including those names and ID in there is also very important as well. Let's go back over to our code, and we're going to continue with this example. Down here, I have my housing. I want to be able now, when in my dog adoption form, to have a name, the name of the person who wants to adopt the dog, an email, where do I reach the person if they are eligible, and then finally, are they going to be in a house or an apartment? I want to know that because that might be dog specific. One of the dogs don't like apartments, something like that, or whatever pet doesn't like the apartments. So we're going to create now that are you in a house or are you in a apartment? If I have to do, are you in this or in this, what kind of tool should I use? Who can tell me what kind of input type I should be using for this one?
Radio.
What was that?
Radio.
Radio, very good. Yes, because it's an or statement. Is it this or this? So radio, very good. So let's go ahead and do that. First things first, I'm going to create the label. Label. And I'm going to say housing. There we go. So we always create our label first, and next we're going to do our input. And then type, and then we're going to do radio. Awesome, awesome. And then we're going to say in this one, our value is going to be, let's see, apartment first. So radios require a value in them so they can differentiate which radio is being clicked. And then we're going to say, what is it? Name is housing. And then our ID is going to be option 1. Perfect. There we go. Oh, and then for this one, we actually need to put in what we have. So I believe, no, it is not. I am a liar. I'm a liar. And then down here, we say label and we say apartment. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. Save that, come back here, refresh. Awesome, we have our first little button here. Go and add our second. Copy this up here because I'm a lazy programmer. And now we're gonna create one for housing. So we're gonna say house, name housing. It's gonna stay the same because it's the same name, it's the same thing, the same group. We're gonna say instead ID is option 2 because our IDs always have to be unique. And this one, we're gonna say house. That save. Awesome, awesome. All right, there we go. We have our apartment and our house now. There we go. And now as you can see with the radio buttons, now only one can be selected. There we go. Isn't that magic, right? Spooky. So cool. I see some nodding heads. Thank you. Thank you. Some excitement for some radio buttons, finally. All right. I need more water before this. It's fine. That's okay. I can brave through it. Okay, we're on the radio buttons. We're done there. Finally, I want to show you guys, or 2 more things I just want to show you. These are just extras. Yes, because you deserve them. We have a pet type. What I want to show you real quick is the select. So we have a select. We're going to have the name of it just being dog type. There we go. And then our ID is going to be dog type as well. Dog type. Oh, sorry, pet type. I was like, what am I doing? Pet type, because are we adopting a cat? Are we adopting a dog? Are we adopting a parrot? I don't know. And then inside the selects, what we have in here are options. So option, our value is going to be, in the first one is going to be dog. Name is pet, or no, we don't need that. Leave like this. There we go. And then we say dog. And then we're going to have a few more options here. And then we do cat, and then a parrot. And we change our options, cat, and then our parrot. Awesome. Let's go and go back here and see what it does. Refresh. Oh, look at that. Now we have a very cool drop down. Oh, look at that. It selects things. Isn't that neat? Yes, more tools for us. All right. Do you guys feel like you deserve one more example? I know you do. So we're gonna do one more here. Oh, I also forgot to put a label up here. Label is what? Pet type. There we go. And then finally, details. So this is when we want to actually add a bulk of information. So if we want to add like a very big paragraph, this is our last one. So we're going to say a label first, so I don't forget this one. Why should you be able to adopt? Give it just some background here. And what we do for a large bit of text is called a text area. There we go. And we say our name is details, and then our ID will also be details. There we go. And oh yeah, you need a partner. There we go. Perfect. There we go. Refresh that, and now look at that. We have a lot of text. A lot of text. Perfect. Perfect. All right. I see a question here, Kyle. I've read somewhere to nest input inside the labels. Any thoughts? Yeah, you can absolutely do that. So it won't do anything necessarily, but you can definitely do it. So if you do that, I believe it's going to look a lot prettier. So let's go ahead and see this. Yeah, this is okay. See, make sure that inside the label. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you absolutely can do that just to keep everything consistent. From a coding perspective, I don't believe there's any difference, but I'll take it with a grain of salt because I haven't really dug too much into that. However, everything should still submit, and we'll talk about it in a bit, in the same exact way. So if you do find what exactly big differences they have about that, please let me know because I'd love to learn more about it. But at this point, I haven't seen any inconsistencies between either way, but would love to learn about any of them. So this is what they were talking about on this. So for the example, you can put your input inside the label tags and the world does not blow up as well. Make sure that there's no differences there. Perfect. All right, so we have completed now an example for text, radio buttons, the selects, as well as a text area. So any questions about any of this before we move on? Anything at all? Everybody liking this? You see the tools, right? I mean, this is kind of fun. This is the cool stuff. Like we actually get to interact with the site and like get users' inputs. Like, please give me that credit card information. I want to sell you that candle I made. Like, honestly, like this is how we get those websites going. Like literally how to do that for a client once. So that's why I was using that example. It's just so much fun. It's just awesome. Just to watch people interact with your site too. Okay, anywho, I'm on a rant. We seem like we don't have any questions. So Kyle's gonna keep on keeping on. All right, so we did all these examples. We came in here. Oh, and one thing I forgot to do before we actually move into that is this guy down here. So one thing I want to do is also do a button called submit because we actually need to be able to submit this form. So we're going to do our ID of submit. And remember, our example here, we have a form. This is technically, in all regards, a form. You have a name, an email, and a bunch of information you're trying to get from someone. We have just successfully created the form. So we need a submit button. Otherwise, what are we going to do with the information, or what should the user do after they entered the information? They need to be able to click something. That's a submit button. So coming back over here now, this is what we kind of did in a nutshell. We put a bunch of inputs in there. Awesome. But what if your site has multiple forms? Or what if you have multiple forms per page? We need to be able to keep these things together. If you have multiple forms per page, but you just have these inputs all around, you're going to get really bad data. You're going to be sending over some really bad stuff because the computer's going to be like, well, I guess all of it's part of one, so here you go. So no, we need to keep it all together, keep our forms together. And how we do that is with, as you probably guessed it, the form tag. We use the form tag to keep our forms separated from each other, so we know which information goes with which group. So that's what we're going to be doing when we create our forms, using that form tag. So we're going to come over here to our example, and we're going to create that form. So our form starts with our first input here, which is going to be right here. This is our first one. So we say form, and it's not where it ends. So what we do is go find our last one. We see our text area is our last thing to enter in, but truly the last part of our form is the submit button. So we need to make sure the submit button is a part of the form. So I'm going to format that. So this is how our form should look. Here we go, look at that. Yes, and our form is at the very end. Now, let's go ahead and save this. By just putting that form there, something magical just happened behind the scenes. Let's go ahead and see what happened. Let's go ahead and type in test. All right, now let's actually use a real name. Let's say Kyle, and I'll say test@mail.com. Why did I do this? Because it's actually really fun. Oh, maybe not. Sometimes it does do it, because you don't want to do it today. Apartment dog test, and there we go. And then we press submit. Why aren't you doing the thing? Why did you do the thing? Did I do it right? No. I have to have it right.
So what's the difference between?
Yeah, Johnny.
What's the difference between the red option value, dog, cat, parrot, and there's a white text? Does this white same text?
So the red here is belonging to the attribute value, while this one right here is the actual text that the user sees. We see that this dog is lowercase, and then this dog is uppercase. If we come over to here, we see that everything is uppercase, meaning that the white text is what the user is actually seeing.
Oh, okay.
Free question. All right. So I think it's because I put it in div. So input type, let's say submit there. And we'll submit. Let's try that then instead. That's really weird that you're acting like that right now. There we go. Okay. I was like, what are you doing? HTML. All right. So also one thing I didn't mention too, you can do submit buttons in 2 different ways. The book gave one with the button there, and I actually tried it and it worked, but I was a little confused about why they did that. The typical way I submit stuff, and don't not believe the book. In the example that they were giving, it does absolutely work. In this case too, my typical go-to, because I know it does work basically 99% of the time, is input type submit. This type submit will create a button, and then your value is whatever you want it to say in that button. So this is how I'm creating the submit button in this example. So I save that, I go back over here, or I'll say send it. There we go. All right, now I want you to take a very close look at some of the stuff here. We're not gonna close out of that because we don't get to see that yet. All right, I'm typing in Kyle here, test@mail.com. I'm gonna be in an apartment. I want a dog, and just because. All right, now watch the magic here. Oh my gosh. Let me just do my thing, computer. Test apartment dog, just because. All right, now it's time for the magic trick. All right, look up here in the URL bar very closely. I promise nothing's gonna pop out of the screen at you like those YouTube videos. And we're gonna press send it, and look what just happened. We just got a longer URL with all that information being posted up here. What just happened was that you just sent a GET request. You just sent information over. This is how we sent it. You just sent all this information to a server somewhere, which right now we're just talking to our own machine, so you send it back to your own machine. So this was called the GET request. How do I know it was a GET request? Let's go ahead and right-click on our browser, press inspect. What happens is this big box pops up, and we've seen this before, but I'm gonna go over to the network tab, which is, for me, 4 over. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and do it one more time. I'm gonna go ahead and say, just test here, and press send. Now, let's take a look at this. This was our request. We sent over this request with all this information. So right here is exactly what we sent over. I sent my owner name test under my query string parameters. So this is how we're sending information. This is the beginning concept of us sending information. Now, are we able to do anything with this information yet? No, not necessarily, because we haven't gotten to that side yet. But it's important to see that this is what we're sending out when an event happens, when we click submit. So pull close note to this, because it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and we're gonna be adding on to these concepts. I'm gonna go up here to a few questions. Melanie, what would you do if you wanted to add something that said, if you have any questions, you can email personwiththedogs@adopt.me.com, and have that be a link. You're gonna look into a thing called mail-to: and then open that up in a separate browser. So look up how to send an email via browser using JavaScript if you want to do that. But you're gonna look up mail-to: and then that address. And what happens is when they click that, your computer will it will react to it and actually open up your mailing software for you to go to. It's actually really fun. But mail-to: or Googling how to mail somebody through JavaScript or something like that. Jason, does the info in the URL hide if it's sent through HTTPS? No, technically not. The HTTPS means there's just a secure link between the two. So the message when it's out in the world, when it's traveling from here to LA, is technically encoded, but you'll still see that information on your URL. Hence why you typically don't use GET requests when sending very, very valuable information. You use POST requests because you can encrypt it. Of course, we're not going to be talking about any of this encryption stuff or security stuff until way, way further down. But just know that there are more security measures in place to protect your stuff from this. Why? Because there's actually huge, like big, I think it was like Yahoo or something got hacked back in like 1993 because someone just like copied the URLs and just got everyone's password. So we've come a long way since 1993. Absolutely, Jason. All right. So that is us sending information. One last thing I want to actually show you all is that we sent it through here. We used a GET request. But what if I don't want to do a GET request? What if I want to send this information via a post, which we should be doing in the future? What we come up here and do is that we do form action, and we're not going to do anything with this action attribute just yet. Don't even worry about it. But we're going to care about method. Method, we're going to say post. It's basically the method or type of request you want to make. So in this case, we've learned about two, get and post. We're going to look at post now. I'm going to save this. And everyone get their face close. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen on Kyle's screen? We're going to take a look here. So I'm going to back that stuff out, press enter. So it's all clear, nice and clean. I'm going to say Kyle here, kyle@mail.com. Apartment dog, hello, and send it. Now look at the URL. Oh, where did it go? Right, magic, told you. Thursday magic tricks. It's actually all gone because we didn't send the information in our URL. We didn't use a query string because we didn't do a GET request. We did a POST request. So where is the information actually hiding? Let's take a look at that. It's actually within the request itself. If you come down here to form data, it's hidden within the request. This is where your information is actually at. It's inside that bubble of a request being sent over to the server. So there's two ways you can send it: through the URL that we can see easily with our human eyes, or in that bubble of information that's going over to the server, and that would be a post. That's what we just did. So again, you're probably asking yourself, okay, like what's the difference? What's going on? Like when do I use what? And all I gotta say is don't worry about it yet. I'm showing you exactly how communication is starting to begin between us and servers. So just take note of this, make mental note. Don't cry yourself to sleep tonight. It's not that big of a deal, but it is very interesting. So if you do want to learn more about it, look up GET and POST requests tonight. Look up how interactions between clients and servers actually happen. YouTube videos are your friend. They are awesome and great learning utensil also. All right, any questions before I move on to a little bit further? We are almost done here, everyone. Almost done. Everyone's like, yes, finally. Please let me go. It's like, not yet. All right. Last thing I want to talk to you all about is how we can actually do something with this information right now on our screen. We can't send it to a server because we don't have a server waiting for our answers, but we can do something fun on our machines right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Yeah, Ryan, what's going on?
Can you define a method without the action in there, or do you have to have both?
I think you can just take out action. I think they're just putting action in there because we know, or we're going to get into that here in the future, but let me just make sure. Test, go send that. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, you don't have to put action there if you want, but I would say put action in there just so you remember that attribute exists because it will be important in the future.
Gotcha.
All right. So last things last, what I'm gonna do is that, like last time, I'm gonna show you how to do a little bit of validation. So if you wanna stick with me, feel free. So I'm gonna say style, or not style, wow, already messing up on the first line. Script, we're gonna write a script in JavaScript to validate our stuff. And when we do a validation is when we do the event. We can only validate when, at least right now, when the user clicks submit. That's when I'm gonna do my validation at this point. Of course, we can do it when they type or something like this, but for ease of purpose, we're just gonna do it when they click submit. So in our script, what I wanna do is I'm gonna create our window.add event listener here. And I'm gonna do it when it loads because I'm gonna create another add event listener for our submit button. So I create my anonymous function. And there we go. If you wanna follow along again and not type all this out, remember it's in full form.html on this example. So in here now, what I need to do is get the button. Who can talk me through about getting the submit button? What do I have to do first? What's the first thing before I add an event listener that I need to do?
Identify the element. So const equals.
Const equals, and we're gonna give it submit button, very good, btn. And I'll come down here and get our information. We need to actually give this thing an ID. Kyle, you didn't give it an ID, what the heck? Submit,
Okay.
there we go. All right, so what I'm gonna do is do what? I know my ID is submit, so how do I get this element out of my website? How do I do it? What do I use? Who can tell me?
Query selector.
You could do query selector, but in this case, I gave an ID, so I'm gonna go the easy route.
Document get element ID.
Get element by ID, very good. And then in this case, I'm just gonna do, and I know this is a little different from the example in there, but I'm gonna go a separate route because that comment in there, I'm showing you how to do the get ID instead. Get element by ID, and I just called it just submit, nothing fancy. There we go. And now I can add my event listener. Submit button dot add event listener. Awesome. And what event am I gonna be listening for?
Click. Click.
Click, very good. Function, awesome. And in here, now I can actually do my validation. Awesome, awesome. All right, I'm gonna make sure they have at least a name in there before I continue on. So the first thing I need to do is actually get my name element. So what I do is I say document.get element by ID. Again, I'm getting that name down here, this guy right here. I see that the ID is owner name. So I'm gonna copy that and get ID owner name. Perfect. All right, so this is one thing we haven't seen yet. How do I get the value out of my text box?
Dot value.
I love it. Thank you, Ryan. Yes, right on my mouth. Very good. So if name element dot value equals nothing, well, we'll say undefined or name dot element or name element dot value equals empty string, either one. Actually, we'll just keep empty string one. That sounds more fun. What we're gonna do is say, oh no, alert, name is required. And then after that, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna say event dot prevent default. And then we're gonna return. What is an event default right here, or event.prevent default? This means that I don't want to send that get request or that post request that we get on the submit button. I don't want to do that because my information is not ready to be sent. So I say event.prevent default from not letting that button do its typical default job, which again is to send that post or get request. So that's why I do that here. Let's go and save this and see if it works. Refresh. I'm gonna press send it. It says, oh no, name is required. Awesome. If I do press, or if I do type in a name, and I do press send it, I see that now, if I go in here, it actually sent. So it said test. Awesome. So our validation is starting to work. One thing more now I want to show you. So we could do this with email, but we do have limited amount of time. So I want to show you one more fun, cool thing. And that is, how do we exactly validate radio buttons? Radio buttons have to be, or if I want the user to have to choose house or apartment, I now have to be able to validate my radio buttons in some way. But you can't just say radio button group dot, do you have a value? That doesn't exist. what we have to do is actually get all of our radio buttons and make sure one of them is checked. So what we're going to do is that we're going to use the name here to get all of our radio buttons and check at least if one is checked. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to get const. I'm going to say housing options, because it's going to be all those housing options, all those radio buttons. Say document. Now I'm going to use something new. Get element by name. And I'm going to use my radio button name that I used for all of them, which was housing. Again, this function right here is going to get back all those radio buttons, which is just 2, but it's going to get them all back. And now we're going to loop over them. Who can tell me what loop you think we should use for this?
If statement.
Oh, yeah.
While loop.
So while loop's only for conditionals. This is going to give us back an array of radio buttons. So
For loop.
which?
For
Very good.
loop.
Loop. There you go. And now I'm getting that, Kevin. I was like, well, I didn't give a numbered option. It's like, I get it, a for loop. All right, I love it. Let I equal 0. I less than housing options dot length I plus plus. Awesome, awesome. All right, very good. We're going to loop through these. And now we're going to say if housing options of I dot checked, is checked, is checked? No, checked. Yeah. Don't you not give me what I want? It's checked, right? Yeah, stop it. You're not working with me today. There we go. We're gonna get dot is or dot checked. Checked means is it actually clicked? Does it have a little ball in it? That is what it means by if it's checked. So if it is checked, what we're gonna do, we need a variable to remember which one actually is checked. So const selected option. We're gonna have it set that as undefined. So down here, now we can actually remember which option was selected by setting it here. Housing options of I. And we know only one radio button can be selected. So after this, I'm just going to break out of this loop in case I have like 1,000 radio buttons or something. I want to loop over all 1,000 if the first one's checked. That's just going to waste time. So I'm just going to break out of there. That's why I did that. And there we go. So if my selected option equals undefined, then I know that there was no selected option. So I'm going to do exactly what I did up here. I'm going to copy those 3 lines, bring them down here. Housing type is required. What are you doing? All right. I'll give you a quick more glance at that and come back over here, refresh. So I'm going to type in test. I'm going to say whatever I want to do here. Doesn't really matter. And I'm not going to send anything there. So I'm going to press send. And it says, oh no, housing type is required. Awesome, awesome. Let's go and select department. Send it, and I see that my request was sent over. Awesome, cool, everything is working. Final fun thing we get to do. Now we know how to get information out of our form. Let's go ahead and make one cool personalized alert. Now we know we can't send anything, so we don't even need to send that post request. So what I'm gonna do is come down here, and I'm gonna prevent the default anyway, just because I know that I don't wanna send that post. I don't wanna send that get and go to a new page. It's not going to do anything. I'm not talking to a server. We're not talking to servers yet. So what I'm going to do is just prevent that default so I can see my alert. So in here, what I'm going to do is put in a personalized message now. Your submission, I don't even know how to spell it right. What did I call that? Oh no, I know. What was that? A name element. Name element dot value. There we go. For a, and then selected. I forgot all my stuff. Oh, selected option. Selected option dot value has been sent. Well, it doesn't technically hasn't been sent, but we can lie to them. Why not? All right, alert saved. Go over here, refresh, and Kyle, apartments, that, send it. You still do what I want. You didn't do what I wanted. What did I do wrong? Yeah. Oh, Let's go over to console, make sure. Aha, something's going on. Put that up there. I'm getting in there. Let's see. Prevent the default. Test apartment. Can't catch it.
Don't you need a listener?
For what?
The submission button?
We're actually in that listener right now. So this
Okay.
is in the load, and then we're in the submission button, add event listener here. So we are inside that listener as we talk. There we go. Okay, let's see if I can actually capture it. So fast. Did I not do it? Didn't I copy that? There we go. I know that's going to work, so. Save, refresh, test. All right, now you're just being mean. What we do is we work backwards when we have an error. Am I missing something? 10 brownie points for whoever found my error. I'm in my formula HTML. I'll take out this chunk then. Save, go, refresh, test, run it. Control Z. Put that back out. Option. You're returning. Where am I returning at? Now refresh, test. Okay, that still works. So we have our if statement here. Let's try alert here. Hello. Is required, test, and if I don't figure this out in 2 minutes, then we're just have to postpone. Prevent default. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this at the very top here, because sometimes JavaScript just does not want to play. Test. There we go. Okay, assignment to a constant variable. Oh! Okay. What constant variable though? Oh, you are totally right. I'm sorry, JavaScript. You are absolutely right. Gosh darn it. I hate when you're actually in the right. If anyone saw that, I put a const here on selected option, but I was resetting selected options on line 20. You can't do that. JavaScript gets very mad. All right. There we go. We got this now. All right. In here, what I'm going to do is you submitted it. Name elements dot value. Just want to show you guys something cool, and it just wouldn't let me work with you. All right. There we go. Kyle, apartments, send it. You submitted it, Kyle. There we go. So that's all I wanted to show you. Didn't know it was going to take an adventure to find it. All right. So that is all I have for you today. That is how we can create a small amount of validation, how we can go through our radio buttons, and how we should not reassign our constant variables when we're trying to show an example. So any final questions before I have to turn you over to your small groups? Okay,
Hi, a
everyone.
quick recap. How did you fix that?
Absolutely. So what happened was I put this as a const originally, and I'm setting it down here. So how I fixed that was I just changed this const to a let on line 17. So a const to a let.
Right.
That was that issue. Yep, absolutely. Yep. All right, everyone. In that case, we are finished. Awesome, awesome. All right. Let's stop sharing here. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this beautiful Thursday. As always, great seeing everyone. And now I'm going to turn you over to your small group. So feel free to leave here. Remember that 8 o'clock. Absolutely. Go. Remember at 8 o'clock, rejoin this exact Zoom to go over studio review with our guest reviewer. So please come back if you want to go over more. Otherwise, feel free to Slack me if you need anything. Always have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you all back here on Monday.
Okay.
All right, bye everyone.
Quick
Thank you so
question,
much.
Kyle.